Hey, what's up, my friends? John Hiley here with Tactical Dent, and I'm going to be doing a full tutorial here with you today on this damage here that actually collapsed the edge of the hood. You can see from this particular angle, and it kind of expands down in near to the body line. Now, there's a couple dents up here on the front. They are under clear bra, so I'm just going to make them better, but I'm going to focus today's tutorial on this large dent that's bowed right there into the edge of the hood. I think the learning lesson here, how to shape up that edge, what tools to use, is what's going to be super valuable in this particular tutorial today. And so first off, I'm going to go ahead and buff the area. You guys can see it has almost like a deep black scratch. And interesting enough, this is from the individual hitting somebody on a bike, actually. And we think that the black scratches was from the handlebars and the handlebar grips. So you can see it went all the way up here using the Rupes buffer, Cost Chimney buffing compound here. But it's coming right off the clear bra, so it did not affect the clear bra. What I told the client, there's one or two things we could do. I could either take off the clear bra, which then he would have to have it reinstalled and make the dents up front, pretty much flawless, or just make them much, much better to where they're very unnoticeable and just keep that clear bra on there. So he opted to go ahead and just make the ones up there on the front better. Well, and not to mention, he never sent me them photos on the actual quote of the ones up front. So I kind of just did a deal where I threw them in for him. All right, so you can see here that we're going to start off with an edge tool. And this is the one that is, it's Anson's edge tool that they developed. So you can actually pick this thing up at Anson PDR tools. Just Google them if you haven't checked them out yet. They carry almost every single brand. So what you see right now is me putting a soft tip on the end and actually adjusting the feet. So this is exactly how this tool works. You clamp onto the edge, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start bending that hood edge up. So the tool is actually designed to go all the way through the edge of the panel and bend it up. Now I'm using a soft tip now because I want some bigger movements. As we go throughout this tutorial, I'll be switching to a sharper tip. But in this particular damage, all of that tension is being caused right there by the edge. And you can see that frame that I just went by, that I've actually got a high spot pushed into the center of that. This is a slow, meticulous process. And the alternative, you can see some of my videos in the past, we would actually just hit the back of the hood right there with a knockdown or a plastic dowel. And that was how I would get that edge up. But this edge tool is probably the most effective tool that I've ever seen when it comes to going through that double panel metal. You can see there, it's moving it up. So I'll push up a spot, and then I'll move to the next lowest spot, and then on to the next lowest spot, until eventually I can crimp that edge. So now I'm going to start off with this knockdown. But really what I quickly find out is that the peak is a little bit too strong in this particular case. So you see me rubbing it right there. It's kind of almost marring the finish a little too much. So I'm going to go back to doing some pushing here. And you're going to see I'm going to switch out the knockdowns during this process, especially while it's under this particular amount of tension. Very easy to kind of beat that area up with a knockdown that's, too hard of plastic. So here we go, still using the soft tip here. And I actually ended up pinching the crap out of my hand while using this thing. So you got to be very careful, especially on the edge right there. See that slip? That little slip right there actually pinched my hand. I didn't show you the aftermath, but it did. So throw the Viper chair under there so I can get comfortable, because I'm going to be here for quite a while. I do believe this repair, probably the whole thing took me around about 3 to 4 hours. And so I was on it for a while, quite a while. Okay, and so what you're seeing here is the meta glasses. You can see how much that's shaping up. Now, the deal is with this, you are going to lose a little bit of that. They almost got like there's like a bead of, I don't know what you want to call it, like sealant or something like that underneath. You're going to lose a little bit of that when you're beating it up. But the alternative is to refinish the entire thing or just replace the hood. So we were willing to just put a little touch-up back underneath there. It's actually not even that bad, and you'll see here at the end, not that bad at all. But you can see why I switched out knockdowns, and I chose this one because this type of plastic is a little bit softer. And so I want the plastic to be soft, a little bit softer while it's hitting on such a hard edge. See, now you see me here just fighting with it a little bit, hitting it with the hammer, hitting it with the knockdown, but now I'm actually going to get a little bit more pinpoint precision, and I'm going to switch the tip out to a plastic tip. So this right here is just your traditional black plastic tip that comes on a lot of your knockdowns when you purchase them. And so here we go. Now I'm pinching it. I actually loosened it up a little bit. And you know what? I think I actually injured my hand on this whole deal right here. Actually, just fixed this vehicle right there. That's where I injured my hand. See that little bite right there? It actually started bleeding pretty bad after a while. You're seeing kind of a fresh chunk taken out of it. But I went and put a Band-Aid on it, so I think we're good to go now. So little by little, you see me, I keep gauging that edge because all the tension on this entire dent is on that edge. And I mean, if you remember from the original videos, it was buckling all the way into the center of that hood. And you can see here that I'm going in through the hole where the windshield wiper sprayers were attached. So I actually pulled that out. Pretty easy to do. You got to be careful. You got to work it from the top first and then pull the back out. And then you just got to kind of be careful. You definitely don't want to ream this hole. It's actually really strong, very strong hole. And then you kind of see the damage oil canning a little bit. And that is actually not due to the damage. It's just due to the edge of the panel. So what you're going to see me doing a lot of is tightening up real close to that edge because I'm trying to swell the metal into the structural part, which is on the back edge. But we're going to go in and do a lot of continued pushing with that edge tool, and that's what's going to eventually take the tension off where the damage will stop oil canning. And so I had somebody ask me on, I did a little reel of this on the Tactical Dent Instagram. Actually, it's here on YouTube as well. But I did a reel on this, and I had somebody ask me if they thought the hot box would actually help the oil canning. I'm just going to be honest with y'all. To me, the hot box is not a tool, and I don't even know where anybody got this from because I've never seen anybody fix an oil can with the hot box. Now, we're talking about the magnetic thing you put on the outside of the panel and cause the panel to bow upwards. Now, I've seen it with the Power PDR box, or I actually used Cam Auto's version where you're shocking the backside of the panel and putting tiny little pushes to shrink the metal. But the exterior on the hot box, to me, hot box is best for little, small, shallow dents, either making them smaller or fixing them completely. And it's also good for cross-checking large damage when you got a lot of little, small, shallow dents that need to be cross-checked. So here, back to the tutorial. You see me holding down right now because I'm trying to get a push and I'm trying to tighten the metal, and I'm actually holding it from oil canning so that way that I get a decent push. And so little by little, I'm just going to keep making my pushes here, tightening up this area, because literally I'm going to have to come back into that edge and start swelling it up. And eventually the edge is actually what gets it to stop oil canning. The only reason that it's falling is that currently right now it is still a little bit low. Okay, now you're going to see me, and this is something when you deal with these edges, you're always going to get a rise right there where the metal overlaps the second panel, where you cannot get no access with the tool. Right there on that edge is where you got to be very, very careful. And I think I find myself knocking this edge down a lot throughout this repair. We'll do some pushing, we'll do some some edge work, and then all of a sudden, bam, there it is, another high spot right there on that edge. So something that you'll find yourself doing anytime that you're working an edge. And in fact, I don't know how many of you guys might have tried glue pulling near an edge, but you can glue pull near an edge and it will jack a giant high spot right here at this location. I don't care if it's a door edge that is along the back seam of the door where you open the door, or the front edge. Anytime there's a double seam connecting together, like we're working right here, you've got the potential to jack a big old high spot out here. You got to hit way, way harder to bring this metal down because, again, it's double panel. Okay, now I actually go back to the sharper tip knockdown because the white one did its job. So it got me to where I am, and now I need something a little bit more refined, just like I'm changing the tip on the end of this edge tool. And so now I'm actually changing it to a metal tip, and this is a Edgy Tools metal tip. It's not super, super sharp because you got to be careful. You can actually poke through the entire panel if you use a super sharp tool. But this right here is going to give me the precision I need to really tighten up all the little lows on this edge. Now, the whole deal with a repair like this is extremely difficult repair. And so you can actually see as I'm doing this, it's swelling up that oil can, by the way, and it's tightening it up. This is what was needed to get rid of that oil can. And so you can see how precise the pushes are here. But this is one of them deals where I talked to the client and I said, hey, I can make this, look to the point where if you never knew it was there, you wouldn't be able to find it. And the truth was, he knew it was there, and he couldn't even find it when he came and when it was finished. But would I dare to say it was absolutely flawless? Not on this edge. But to 99% of the world, yes, it would look absolutely flawless. In fact, I would dare to say much better than any paintwork, much better than respraying the hood. It had much less flaw by keeping everything original. But I'm not going to go and say that it was absolutely perfect or absolutely flawless. But very, very good. So you can see there that push just did really nice on that edge. And you can see here that the progression is that you try to move a bulk of it up, and we did that with the soft tip. And then you try to move a little bit more, and we did that with the plastic tip. There you go. You can kind of see that edge now. Kind of see that edge, how it's turned in a little bit and how it's got that low right there to the back side of it. Now I'm just dialing in that low with the sharper tip. So as we progress through this repair, the tips continuously get sharper. On this back edge, of course. We literally started with a decently sharp tip inside of the panel when I did the pushing part. And I'm going to have to go in there and continue to push this because as this shapes up, there's still going to be some little ripples and waves and things that can be cleaned up relatively well with a nice, I'm actually going to be using the short Mark Zirkus tool in there. Actually found that one to get to most of the damage, and that would be the smallest Mark Zirkus tool. That's a PDR finesse tool. And you can also get that tool at pdrfinesse.com, or I think it's pdrfinessetools.com, or you can actually, Anson carries that as well, so Anson PDR tools. So they carry just about every tool company's products. And so there you go. You guys can see it's already shaping up. So that's that Zirkus rod that I was talking about. And I'm just coming right into that windshield washer hole. And now you can see it's really down to the nitty gritty, very little left to get in there and shape up. But this right here is actually what takes a little bit of time. It takes a lot longer than what most people realize or you think by watching a video like this, because of course I didn't record every single moment on this video, but I wanted to get the key elements and the key repair techniques in one particular video and not do like a 4-hour shoot. All right, so you can see here now I'm getting right back in there. This thing is biting really nice. And see, I'm looking at the dent differently now. I'm really looking at the edge from this straight on angle. Before I was looking down the side, but now I'm looking at this edge from the straight on angle. And just trying to dial it in, because it just looks like the edge is looking pretty good, but it does look a little bit high back in behind it. And I'm going to end up coming back to our original angle to finish the damage. But this is also critical to cross-check and try to find highs and try to find little lines and little lows from this angle as well. In fact, you want to work the damage from as many angles as possible. That's going to keep your work clean. I call it bobbing and weaving. You got to be looking at every single little angle, because what happens is little creases appear while you're tapping or while you're pushing, and you can't see them from the angle that you're tapping or pushing. So you got to move your light almost the exact opposite angle so you can find all the tiny little creases, all the tiny little dots, all the tiny little flaws that you're trying to perfect during a repair like this. And so, to be honest with you, when the client came in here, I looked at it and said, yeah, I'm not really sure. I will know if this thing's repairable within about an hour or so after I start working on it. But I'm not 100% sure if it's going to be repairable or not. And I was kind of trying to set his expectations, because this was a rough one. I mean, I knew that it was going to oil can. I knew there was going to be lots of oil canning going on, and you really don't know that these dents are repairable until you get them to the stage where the thing stops oil canning. Once you get it to the stage where it stops oil canning, it stops buckling up and down, you can actually safely say, okay, well, I can continue now, because now it's just going to be time and patience that it takes to make this thing right. So now you actually see me using the Pee-wee, which is the tiniest, not the sharpest, but the tiniest peak tip that is actually still flat. I very rarely use the sharpest peak tip, but this is from Dent on Dent Tools. Woody Koss was one of the originators of this particular peak plastic, and using and creating from this peak plastic. All right, guys, so now you can see that I still got a little bit of a bend in the edge, and I'm just going to continue hammering that thing up. And now I am going to get in here and do a little wet sanding and buffing. So this right here, I'm actually using Koss Chemi. It's actually for clay bar. So this is a clay bar spray, and I find that it works really well for wet sanding as well. And so you heard me throughout this tutorial, I'm a big fan of Koss Chemi and their products. I also sprayed some up there because there was that original scratch that actually still had a little bit of a scratch in the panel, and I wanted to see if I can go ahead and wet sand that out as well. Just making it a little bit better. And just a heads up, so the front of the hood, I know I didn't really go over that with you, and it came out pretty darn good. The client couldn't even tell that that it was ever dented. But the very front of the hood, the reason why you can't guarantee perfection with deep dents with a clear brawl on it is because you can't do any knockdown work. And if you do knockdown work, it's got to be almost with a soft tip, so there's not going to be any real precision. So you can rough them up and get them looking really good. But I always give the client that option because it's very expensive to get clear brawl put on. I don't know if you guys have checked your prices in your area for that stuff, but it is very, very expensive to put clear brawl on. So would you have a little minor flaw that he can't even see anyway, nobody will ever be able to see it, Or would you rather pay, whatever it costs to have this whole thing, the whole front of the hood redone, and also what it costs for me to take it off? Because I can tell you one thing, I am not taking off a clear brawl for free because it takes time and effort. And I would rather avoid that, and I actually recommended that he avoided it. In fact, I said, hey, you know what? If you don't like it, after I'm done, up there on the front of the hood, I said, I'll charge you to take it off, and I'll finish it up. And you can take a look at it first. He came and he looked at it and he said, I can't see anything. And that's the one thing that you love it when a client comes. And he took this to several shops around here, and everybody denied the job. Everybody said the hood needed to be replaced. It was a body shop job, but look at this. You can see, is it flawless? Not flawless, but it is pretty dang good. Pretty dang good for what it was. And we went from having the whole edge collapsed in to where the hood, you can't even tell. And you can see underneath there where I did the paint touch-up. It looks great there as well. But that's it, my friends. I just wanted to go over this, how the edge tool worked, some of the different tools that I used during this particular process. So you can take a look at it in here in my shop, take a look at it outside. Came out incredible. So anyhow, you guys, I appreciate you. And as usual, I'll see you on the next one.